Our world is a place of fear and wonder. Every day, extraordinary things occur, be that for the better or for the worse. Sometimes, for reasons beyond our understanding, terrible things happen, but it's crucial we keep pushing through the grief and pain into a new, better tomorrow. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be looking at 3 recent discoveries surrounding the US Coast Guard. US Coast Guard pull a body from a car near Niagara Falls. The last thing you want when you are driving is for your car to be caught in Niagara Falls' perilous rapids. Unfortunately for one 60-year-old woman, that is exactly what happened. According to Kathy Hochul, the water levels were decreased and lowered to aid the US Coast Guard with the recovery of an unnamed woman's body. The US Coast Guard lowered a professional emergency diver to retrieve the body from a helicopter flying overhead. The mission was difficult and hazardous given the freezing temperatures, high currents, and terrible visibility. Unfortunately, after she was rescued out of the submerged car, the woman in question had already perished. The rapids are positioned a mere 50 yards from Niagara Falls, causing authorities to question how exactly her car fell into them and became trapped. Darian Jury, the US Coast Guard diver, was lowered 24 meters to reach the car. Snow was falling heavily around him, and he only possessed an axe in his hand to assist with getting the woman out of the car. The wind and water fought against the rescue attempt, but fortunately, just as the wind spun Darian around, he caught onto the passenger side car door handle and managed to pull it open. Darian stated, "As I was coming down, I was just really focused on how I'm going to get in this car when there's, pretty much rapids coming over the car right next to Niagara Falls. Luckily, the car was unlocked and I didn't have to break out any windows, and I was able to open up the passenger side door and push it up against the current." Chris Monticelli, the helicopter pilot, stated, "A lot of bigger planes have de-icing capabilities, but we don't. We have a lot of discussions and training for what we'd do if we got into that situation, because if you do accumulate enough ice on the helicopter, it will fall out of the sky." According to one of the other rescuers, Officer Finity, the current was ripping pretty good through there and the car was close to the edge of the falls. If it moved, we didn't want Darian getting dragged down with it. Eyewitnesses state that they saw the car floating by the pedestrian bridge, thought to be where the woman fell in with her car. The roads in this area are reportedly difficult to drive through without tires slipping, and the strong winds could have propelled her car toward the rapids. After all, a momentary lack of vehicle control is all it takes for a disaster to strike. The car understandably could not be salvaged. By the time Darian was pulled back up into the helicopter with the woman, only the last remaining parts of the car were visible. Police Captain Christopher Roller has publicly declared it was an incredible job by the Coast Guard, because this was one of the first times the Coast Guard approached a submerged vehicle so closely and with such precision. Current investigations are ongoing to decide whether the woman's car falling into the rapids was on purpose or an accidental tragedy, as Niagara Falls attracts many danger-seeking individuals annually. Many such people attempt to brave the falls with tragic results, and the landmark has a long dark history of daredevils and people taking their own lives there. 39 missing after boat capsizes off Florida coast. According to the US Coast Guard, 39 people are missing after a boat capsized on the coast of Florida. A survivor claimed to be from a migrant group from the Bahamas, after which the search mission was officially started. The survivor in question was saved by a passerby who saw the man on a mostly sunken ship's hull and alerted the Coast Guard, who were able to save the man in time. The survivor informed them that none of the migrants aboard the vessel wore life jackets, and safety procedures on deck were heavily lacking. The ship was met with terrible storms and treacherous weather 45 miles away from Fort Pierce. In the search for the nearly 40 missing, they located one deceased individual, but this leaves another 38 somewhere out there, still missing. According to Captain Joanne F. Burdian, "It is dire. The longer they remain in the water exposed to the marine environment, with every moment that passes, it becomes much more dire and more unlikely. She claims the Coast Guard is set on finding the remaining migrants alive and rescuing them. Aircraft, drones, and vessels have been sent out in hopes of tracking down these missing souls. Every moment that passes reduces the potential of them being found alive. The investigation and search mission spans from Bimini to Fort Pierce, and authorities are hoping to find at least traces of the migrants, if not the actual missing migrants themselves. Currently, due to civil unrest in the Caribbean and Central America, there are many people seeking asylum and shelter in the US with the hopes of starting a better life. Sadly, due to poverty and desperation, they have no choice but to traverse the seas unsafely. This has caused a plenitude of tragic migrant deaths in the past few decades. Alongside the group of missing migrants, the Coast Guard managed to save another 32 people whose boat capsized near Bimini, heading to the US from Haiti and Cuba. US President Joe Biden has been establishing increasingly restrictive policies regarding border immigration, and many migrants seeking better, happier lives for themselves and their families are rejected the right to asylum as a result. Since October, the Coast Guard's picked up an estimated 560 Cubans, as well as 176 Haitians, with no end in sight to the immigration issue visible. Coast Guard issues final report on FV destination sinking. 6 crew members tragically perished on board a 98-foot crabber in February of 2017 when it sunk, but only recently have the US Coast Guard released the final report regarding the sinking. This report is 138 pages in length and concludes that the heavy crab pots aboard the ship were more than the recommended weight and caused the vessel to become unstable. This increased weight pressure combined with an immense amount of ice that formed from the freezing waters that stuck to the ship, causing it to eventually capsize. According to Admiral J.P. Mando, as written in the official report, the loss of the destination with 6 persons aboard was a tragic and preventable accident. I offer my sincere condolences to the family and friends of the mariners whose lives were lost. Writers of the case report advised that there should be an oversight audit put in place when it comes to future fishing ships. This audit should ensure that these vessels have adequate stability for the tempestuous conditions of the sea. Commandant Admiral John P. Nadeau, however, claims there is not sufficient evidence in this report to conclude additional oversight is needed across the entire fleet of commercial fishing vessels, proving that the matter is controversial and opinions are split. The lives of those 6 fishermen could have been saved if only the proper precautions had been put in place to prevent it. Chief of the Coast Guard Investigations, Captain Lee Boone, believes that by checking and managing a majority of fishing vessels, this sort of tragedy could be prevented in the future. David Wilson, the boat's owner, did not tell the captain of the crabber how to sufficiently maintain the vessel and what weight it could handle. Therefore, the captain was unaware that the crabbing pots caused instability to the ship. The Coast Guard has called for civil penalties to be conducted. The sea is a hazardous place. Each day, lost souls succumb beneath the waves to an eternal slumber. The US Coast Guard has to deal with countless calls and dangers daily with the hope of rescuing as many lives as they can. The job is surely a treacherous one, filled with life-threatening risks and high-cost emergencies. Water is the element of life, but it is also an unrelenting force of nature. The tragedy lies in the fact that many lives of those lost at sea could be prevented with safer vessels and better seafaring regulations. But what are your thoughts on these discoveries surrounding the US Coast Guard? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.